see how long it lasts and exists as a quiet place, but I think I found a spot.
Okay. All right, good. Well, listen, first of all, I wanted to have you on just because, well, number one, congratulations on the Calvin Coolidge Awards. That's fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It was an honor, and I certainly tried to keep the ideas of liberty and freedom whenever I placed my votes. So,
well,
thank you.
That's evident. I mean, you look at the record. But I saw this piece. This was a little while ago. Let's see, what date was this? This ran, I think, August 23rd. But the headline is Data Officer Job Awarded to UALR. And in it, it's talking about a new position that needs to be filled because of Act 912 of 2017, sponsored by Representative Austin McCollum, Republican from Bentonville. So tell us, Austin, what was the need behind this piece of legislation?
Yes, so Act 912, the need is, and the idea is, we want to create policy that is data-driven. We want to make decisions when we're in government that is driven by data. And one of the ways you can do that is to have a clean data system. Currently, what we have is, in Arkansas, a lot of departments, a lot of different agencies, and with all separate systems and data warehouses that don't talk to each other. So this bill, this now act, but it went through the Committee on Advanced Communications and Technology, and kind of the original intent came from a study that was done before I ever got to the Capitol.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program today. Thank you so much for being with us. Happy Tuesday. Man, it has felt like a Monday all day today. Joe, I mean, what about you? Think it's a Monday? Yeah. All day today, it's felt like a Monday, and I know that a lot of people are doing the same thing. Hope everybody had a happy Labor Day. And you have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We are building a liberty machine. We want you to be a part of that liberty machine. One of the ways you can do that is to call us or text us, the number 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. We've got a great show for you. We're going to get into a little bit of a Conduit for Action article that broke over the weekend, which is quite comical and ridiculous at the same time. Well, the subject matter is ridiculous because we shouldn't even be having to discuss this. Then we're going to talk about DACA. We are going to talk about DACA today, specifically what Jeff Sessions said and what some former Arkansas elected officials are saying about it. Then we will get to our whiteboard, which simply today says FBI interview. It's a short week, but we'll talk about this. I don't know what it was. So it's like a historical recap of GIF funds in Arkansas. And everybody who's been indicted, as well as people maybe who are about to be indicted, or a lot of people don't know. We do know one thing. Over the last couple of years, the FBI has been interviewing people at a breakneck pace. They've been interviewing, I'm sure, lobbyists, but they've certainly been interviewing legislators. We have legislators now coming out on the record saying that they were interviewed by the FBI. So if you're a legislator who has been around the block when all of this corruption was going on and you haven't been interviewed by the FBI, maybe you should be worried. Again, the phone number, 870-275-9799. That's 870. I'm serious. I'm serious about that. If I were a legislator that has been around during the Mike and Neal, John Woods, Jake Files saga, and you haven't been interviewed by the FBI, maybe you should be concerned. 870-275-9799. All right, let's move on now. I saw this weekend. Many of you, a friend of mine was telling this is a little known, a lot of people don't even know this. So you had these scorecards that came out. You had Conduit for Commerce with their scorecard. You had Americans for Prosperity Arkansas with their scorecard. Family Council. Well, this has upset the political establishment because people are... See, these organizations that have done... They haven't changed. They're still conservative. They still have the same policy goals that they always wanted. And yet it's the Republicans in leadership who are failing. And they're being graded in many ways very objectively because the policy goals of these organizations have remained the same. They have remained consistent for the most part. And they are upset because they're not changing and just always being the protectors of the Republican Party. And it's easy to understand. It's not excusable, but it's easy to understand how we got here. You see, there's a lot of Republicans who are in leadership today that got in leadership because conservative organizations were out there easily defeating the Democrats with the facts and the truth and going door to door and saying, hey, do you agree with this policy? And, well, no, I don't agree with that policy. Oh, well, this is what the Democrats support. Oh, they do? I'm going to vote for Republican. And it's a very easy thing to do. And people confuse that with blind loyalty because now that I'm a Republican and I'm in office and these groups have, we've had like-minded interests in the past, mutual benefits to each other in the past, that now all of a sudden anything I do because I have an R next to my name, these organizations should affirm me because they have helped me in the past. Now, that's not excusable, but it's understandable that that's the corrupt way, the weird, twisted way that they're thinking. That what they do doesn't matter because we've been friends in the past. People change, though. And many of these politicians that once had a conservative voting record when, to use the quote of some or one, Jim Hendren, it didn't matter what we filed because it wasn't going to pass. So you could file a very conservative piece of legislation. The Republicans would all vote for it. The Democrats would all vote against it. All these Republicans get credibility for wanting, well, at least communicating, hey, we want actual reform. The Democrats are obstructionists. The Democrats, so vote for more Republicans. Well, now that's no longer a thing. And so you have conservative organizations that have always been conservative, have always wanted to shrink government or to protect traditional American values or, to understand that economic freedom is a prerequisite to other freedoms. You've always had that. And now that the Republicans are not doing this, they're upset at these organizations. Now, one of those people who are upset at these organizations is Senator Jim Hendren. Senator Jim Hendren, for now, is the majority leader in the Arkansas Senate. He was the majority leader back when he went to a Tea Party meeting and directly criticized me. He didn't know I was going to be there. He put my face in his slideshow. That's right. I was a part of Senator Jim Hendren's PowerPoint presentation where he, was trying to directly combat the stuff that you hear on this program. So they certainly think that I'm effective. They certainly think the folks at Conduit are effective, and they're trying to combat that message every chance that they get. And it is hilarious. I have a friend who was telling what Senator Hendren was doing to a group of people the other day. He is now trying to put out his own scorecard of the scorecards. His own scorecard of the scorecards, which is hilarious to me. I mean, it is a very, very funny thing of how worried they are when organizations are essentially not giving them the scores that they want, not giving them the scores that they desire, not giving them the approval, saying that they're not conservatives. Or, I mean, I'm saying they're not conservatives or they don't have a conservative voting record. The scorecards are just saying, hey, this is the bill. This is what it was going to do. It's bad, good, neutral, whatever. This is how you voted. And that's all it is. And then you tally the scores up, and there you go. And that's all that it is. Look at this headline over at conduitforaction.org. Senator Jim Hendren to grade his own paper. Will he finally pass? This is a great analogy. A commentary by Conduit for Action basically saying this is what it is. Him trying to grade his own paper. Now, I would go a step further and call it something different. I think when the Senate Majority Leader, and I'm curious, I really am curious, When we finally see Senator Jim Hendren's scorecard of scorecards, I wonder if the Bureau of Legislative Research would have helped him at all. But look, the Bureau of Legislative Research, I mean, the fact that he's an elected official, he's trying to grade himself, he's trying to put his own scorecard up there, something that he likes better. I mean, propaganda is what this really is. That's what I would say. This is actual propaganda. And if the Bureau of Legislative Research helped him at all do this, I'll go a step further and say, I mean, it's 100% propaganda. And it just reeks of elitism. You're not going to score us. We're going to score you. Wait a second. We are the people that have to live under your votes, that have to live under the laws that your votes work to pass. And now you're going to grade other scorecards? I mean, it is the height of arrogance. If you want to know what these people think of themselves, you need to look no further than Senator Hendren, who, by the way, in response to this article over at Conduit for Action, is accusing CFA of a meltdown. Oh, they're in meltdown mode. No. Senator Hendren, if he's listening to this, and if he's not, I'm sure we'll find him. You got to understand, when the average person finds out and has it explained to them exactly what it is you're doing, it sounds ridiculous that a politician would grade the scorecards. It sounds ridiculous. So anyway, Senator Hendren to grade his own paper. Will he finally pass? Let's read this a little bit, shall we? Let me see here. I had it pulled up. I was on the Facebook Live video. All right. First of all, look at that. Nice. I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, you know, you got to have fun with Photoshop, don't you? That's what is that, like a Napoleon hat? Actually, a Napoleon hat would be the other way. Yeah. This is more like just like a captain's hat, like a sailor or something, Commodore. Anyway, so Senator Jim Hendren didn't do well on the scorecards of the three major Arkansas conservative watchdogs. He decided the poor rankings he received by the three conservative groups wasn't a sign he needed to move away from embracing big government and more taxes. Instead, in a hilariously odd move, he decided to do what nearly every teenager wishes he could do: grade his own paper, create his own scorecard. I am told it is a Commodore. Commodore Hendren. All right, to view the scorecards of the three major conservative groups in Arkansas, you can click right there if you see it up there at Facebook Live or paulharrell.com or YouTube. Conduit for Commerce, Fiscal Conservative Issues, Economic Issues, Family Council's Action Committee, primarily socially conservative issues, and the Arkansas chapter of Americans for Prosperity, various conservative issues. You can click on any organization right there over at conduitforaction.org. The story goes on. It says, Jim Hendren's soon-to-be-released self-assessment will need a big curtain to hide big government and left-leaning votes by him and his establishment clique. You see, let me stop here for a second. Senator Hendren sees this. This goes back to kind of the idea of being on same sides, because some organizations were useful to you in the past, mainly at defeating Democrats in Arkansas. The idea that this scorecard now is going to, or that scorecard or this scorecard exposes establishment Republicans as being left-leaning progressives, many of them Democrats or, in sheep's clothing. There's a military term for friendly fire, fratricide, I believe, Fratricide, the accidental killing of one's own forces in war. Just something tells me that this is kind of along the lines of where Jim Hendren is coming from. Now, again, it just is ridiculous. I mean, come on, just take your lumps. Vote differently next time. Now, there's another reason that Senator Jim Hendren, in my opinion, feels the need to score the scorecards. It's because there are rumblings among the Republican establishment and the ones that kind of try to ride the fence as to whether or not their leadership is still credible and they should still continue to follow them into battle, into war. And really, at this point, many of them feel like all they really did was stab themselves, fall on their own swords on behalf of the mighty R at the end of Asa Hutchinson's name. that they just pledged fealty to ACE's agenda, and now you have organization after organization after organization essentially saying that Asa Hutchinson's version, Asa Hutchinson's leadership is not a conservative one. And there's rumblings. There's people. I mean, that's why they were. I'm telling you, folks, they had all those headlines on Friday about, our Medicaid scorecard. They start talking about all the savings that they had in traditional Medicaid. Now, they want those savings so that they can pay for able-to-work adults to not work. But they have all of this stuff. Do you know why they're putting out all of this fanfare? Is because there are people who are not really sure why they're falling on their sword time and time again for Asa Hutchinson and Jim Hendren, who, by the way, uncle-nephew relationship there. They're not really sure that this is worth it anymore because the people are starting to figure out and discover that the way they campaigned is not how they voted. And this is now a national trend. Have you noticed this? Tucker Carlson the other day, talking about DACA, talking about these conservative issues, talking about Obamacare repeal, that the Republican Party is in the business of breaking their promises, that they keep running to do X, Y, and Z, and they get the House, they get the Senate, they get the presidency, and then the establishment says no. The ones that are essentially, the same ones that every now and then will just lock arms with the Democrats and sing Kumbaya in agreement on, really big policy issues. And it's very glaring that, flyover country, we're giving electoral power, giving legislative power, and yet they're still finding ways to not enact policies that we all want. So it's also a national trend, right? And people in Arkansas, politicians in Arkansas, are figuring it out, and they're saying, you know what, this is not what we want to do. So that's why they got to put out the Medicaid stuff, and look what we saved. And again, that's so that they can pay for 330,000 people to be on a welfare program. And then they got to put out scorecards of scorecards. It's a scorecard of scorecards because you don't like the scores that you and your colleagues are getting. And folks, trust me on this. They talk. They talked about Conduit for Commerce's scorecard, and they didn't like their scores, and then they complained about their scores, even though all you had to do was look at the scores, the bills that were being scored week after week after week in the legislative session. But they're like, you know what? That's Conduit for Commerce. That's an anomaly. Then Americans for Prosperity came out with theirs. There's some people that didn't like that scorecard either. Okay, maybe a trend is starting. But you know what? Never mind. Then the social conservatives come, Family Council with theirs, and that's when they lit their heads on fire. I mean, that's when they pulled their hair. That's when they freaked out. You talk about a meltdown. That meltdown is what basically it rallied the troops, if you will. Senator Hendren rallying the troops, saying, you know what, I got this, guys. You can trust me. The guy who said we were going to end Medicaid expansion if you just followed his leadership. And now I'll come out with a scorecard of scorecards to make the establishment feel better, and I'll set the record straight because, you can trust government sources. Government sources never put out information to protect the government and the people who are enacting an agenda contrary to what the people really want. Back to the article as we finish things up here. Some have complained Hendren stole the idea of grading his own paper from another big government politician, Hillary Clinton. I'm sure he loved this. Hillary published her self-assessment in her book, What Happened, which blames everyone but herself for losing to President Donald Trump. We must admit Hendren's self-assessment sounds suspiciously like Hillary's plan. Rumor has it, Hendren will soon sail as Commodore on a new project, writing his own version of the Republican platform to match his big government pro-Obamacare and tax and spend philosophy. Stay tuned for further big government adventures of Senator Jim Hendren. I will say one thing. Charlie Collins has already beat Senator Hendren to it. He said he wanted a millionaire tax in Arkansas on yachts or big purchases like that. He said it on Twitter. And when somebody said that's not part of the platform, the Republican platform, Charlie Collins on Twitter responded, I got a lot of good ideas that aren't in there yet. Yeah, like a millionaire's tax. So, there's already some Republicans, quote, Republicans, who are already trying to rewrite the Republican platform. And that's essentially what's going to happen here with a scorecard of scorecards, in my opinion. We'll see what happens, though. Phone number, 870-275-9799. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group. Back in a moment. Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org, and stand up for small business in Arkansas.
Conservative legislation killed?
Or do you need policies enacted that ensure government growth?
Then you need to get
Nephewed. Hi, I'm nephew number 1 of uncle, nephew, and nephew, attorneys at law. I'm not a lawyer, but I am a senator.
And I'm nephew number 2, and I am a lawyer and also a senator.
Are you the victim of a recent accident in which the voters in your community mistakenly elected a limited government conservative who is now actually implementing the ideas he or she campaigned on?
That's right, nephew number 1. Don't be a victim of democratic elections any longer. At Uncle, Nephew, and Nephew, we are committed to killing limited government legislation and promoting bills that increase the size of government by using any tool at our disposal.
Because sometimes the truth of the matter is, principles get in the way of pragmatism.
Just listen to some of our great testimonials.
Ever since I've been using the nephews, all my special interests have been served. As long as you make sure your contract says lobbying services are prohibited, then the legal services of uncle, nephew, and nephew are legal. Trust me, put the nephews on them.
It came out of nowhere. I was blindsided last election cycle when my well-funded and paid-for politician lost to some grassroots limited government voters. But then I hired the nephews, and they killed all the conservative policies the voters wanted. I got nephewed.
I got nephewed too, and so can you. Uncle, nephew, and nephew will accept compensation via campaign contributions. Put the nephews on them.
PHP Parody. Broadcasting across Arkansas and holding politicians accountable for what they say and do. The Paul Harrell program.
And so next up, we're going to be talking about DACA. This is obviously got the left in a tailspin. You want an actual meltdown. This is an actual meltdown. We'll be discussing this, of course, Jeff Sessions making the announcement earlier today. And what's interesting about this is, I don't know, man, if you really want... And I'm going to use this because I want every example that's out there to prove my point correct. And I'm sorry, and there's a lot of them. And I know we're preaching to the choir here. I get that. But maybe you guys have, people in the water coolers, I don't know, that are still like, no, I think Asa is doing a good job. I mean, look, I just want you to know the trajectory, the path that we have been on for a long time. Is one where Democrats are still in control. The Democrat policies are still being enacted, and they do that by getting control of the leadership. And I'll just remind you, because we're going to be talking about him in a minute, you have the former Speaker of the House, Republican Davy Carter, who was Democrat Mike Beebe's choice for Speaker of the House. So Mike Beebe backs Davy Carter, gets all of the Democrats in the House to support him and a few of the Republicans, and there's your Speaker of the House, a quote, Republican, end quote. Well, wait till you see what he's saying about DACA on Twitter. We'll have that and Jeff Sessions' remarks when we come back. And also, at 5 o'clock, we're going to go over this Demgaz article, FBI interviewing folks. Again, if you're at Arkansas legislature and you haven't been interviewed by the FBI, you might need to be concerned about that. You might. Somebody on our Facebook Live said now all of the legislators are going to be calling the FBI asking to be interviewed. Well, hey, I'm sure they'll take you up on that, especially if you have valuable information. I don't know. Maybe you can cop a plea. Back in a minute.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
But just through my experiences and how and a lot of other people that make decisions in a business environment, we like to make sure that when we make decisions, we have data that backs that up. So now we go into an environment in the government where we're trying to make decisions about individuals, and it can become difficult to do that whenever you have this agency that has a set of data that doesn't talk to this other department, which it's all Arkansas state government, but the data doesn't talk to each other. And so also what happens is it slows down the decision-making process. What we have are a lot of folks that are working hard in these agencies and departments that are doing a lot of ad hoc reporting. We want to get rid of the ad hoc reporting. So what this act does is it creates a central data warehouse that makes it so all of the data from all these different departments and agencies talk to each other. And with that, it does create a position of the chief data officer. The idea is we want to have someone who's experienced, who's done this before. If we're going to do it, we want to do it correctly. And also in that article that you mentioned at the very end, it does stress the need for the position that still needs to be filled of chief privacy officer, because as you know, anytime the government gets in the business of collecting data, we certainly want to make sure that we're following the law. You know, HIPAA comes to mind, other types of very sensitive pieces of data that, so, you know, we certainly need to fulfill that chief privacy officer role as well.
So how does this work? I mean, because, I mean, this is a huge undertaking. I mean, it just I know how big government is. I know you know how big government is. It's a huge undertaking.
Sure.
So when do you start compiling the data? Is it by request only that or is it going to be just kind of a measured, okay, now we're going to try to tackle this bureaucracy and then we'll move to another bureaucracy? How is all this going to work?
Well, the idea is so it'll be a slow process. It'll be one that really I think you can measure success at the end by whenever you're in the system and you can pull up a piece of data. And so let me just give you a good example. And I think I even said this on the House floor. Let's say DHS is trying to collect child support from an individual in Arkansas, and this guy, quote unquote, deadbeat dad is a quote that people throw around, isn't paying anything. Can't find anything about him. He's not paying what he owes in child support. Turns out he just signed up for a license over in Game and Fish, but DHS didn't know that because we don't have departments that talk to each other. So, you know, take that even a step further. You can think of, unfortunately, we've heard of scenarios where individuals receive multiple types of benefits that they're not necessarily entitled to have. And so you want to clean up a lot of and scrub a lot of the data that we have. Really, with the piece of legislation done, it just put the players into place to build the system. So not only do we have the two positions that I mentioned earlier, the CPO, Chief Privacy Officer, and the Chief Data Officer, but you also have more or less a task force, but it's not a creation of a new membership. You're just taking the people that make this up are people that are already members of certain departments across our state.
Yeah.
So it's basically having people come to the table to discuss what their internal systems look like and bring it together. So it's creating that system.
Yeah.
So really the piece is just encouraging them, saying, hey, this is the direction that we need to be moving.
So let me ask you this. Within each bureaucracy, do you have, I know this is a no-brainer, but like there's no standard procedure within each bureaucracy on how to operate or how to maintain the data. Is that a true
Sure.
statement?
Yeah. From what I understand, and I gained this understanding from the study that was done in that committee, there is a standard, but all of the standards are different from each other. So this department might have their own standards, this agency might have their standards.
To get something off your chest? Then call or text Paul now, 870-275-9799.
All right, welcome back. All right, so we got Jeff Sessions. This is sent the left in a tailspin today. We have, again, Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Can we cue this audio up over here, Joe? I know you have it. It's the Real Clear Politics audio there. So, yeah, this is Jeff Sessions from earlier today. Take a listen to this, folks.
Morning. I'm here today to announce that the program known as DACA that was effectuated under the Obama administration is being rescinded. The DACA program was implemented in 2012 and essentially provided a legal status for recipients for a renewable 2-year term, work authorization, and other benefits, including participation in the Social Security program to 800,000 mostly adult illegal aliens. The policy was implemented unilaterally to great controversy and legal concern after Congress rejected legislative proposals to extend similar benefits on numerous occasions to this same group of illegal aliens. In other words, the executive branch, through DACA, deliberately sought to achieve what the legislative branch specifically refused to authorize on multiple occasions. Such an open-ended circumvention of immigration laws was an unconstitutional exercise of authority by the executive branch. The effect of this unilateral executive amnesty, among other things, contributed to a surge of minors at the southern border that yielded terrible humanitarian consequences. It also denied jobs to hundreds of thousands of Americans by allowing those same illegal aliens to take those jobs. We inherited from our founders and have advanced an unsurpassed legal heritage, which is the foundation of our freedom, our safety, and our prosperity. As Attorney General, it is my duty to ensure that the laws of the United States are enforced and that the constitutional order is upheld. No greater good for the overall health and well-being of our republic than preserving and strengthening the impartial rule of law. Societies where the rule of law is treasured are societies that tend to flourish and succeed. Societies where the rule of law is subject to political whims and personal biases tend to become societies afflicted by corruption, poverty, and human suffering. To have a lawful system of immigration that serves the national interest, we cannot admit everyone who would like to come here. It's just that simple. There is that would be an open borders policy, and the American people have rightly rejected that.
All right, stop. All right, so this is obviously, it sent the left in a tailspin of, identity politics doesn't even begin to cover what's about to come down the pike now that this is going to happen. Obviously, it's a 6-month delay. Congress now has the ability to act in some capacity to try to fix this. Now, what needs fixing here, right? I think we can all say that before you decide what it is you're going to do with DACA, that we have to control who is coming here illegally. It's very, very simple. Do you lock your doors at night? The answer? Yeah. I lock my doors at night. Why do you lock your doors? Because you don't want someone to come in your house that is not authorized by you to be there. It's the exact same philosophy, the exact same principle applies to the southern border. So if you have any liberals out there that you come in contact with, and I'm sure you will, in the next coming days, weeks, and months, as soon as Huffington Post or Slate.com has to, writes whatever hit piece they're going to write, ask them if they lock their doors at night. It's the same principle. We do need some sort of control as to who gets to come to this country and who doesn't. It's not a complicated idea. It's not racist. It's not xenophobic. It's none of those things. Now, that being said, what does our congressional delegation think of this? Let's just stick with the House, right? I've got Congressman Rick Crawford from Arkansas first. Quote, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals DACA program was created by an unconstitutional executive action, and President Trump correctly decided to rescind the program in favor of a more comprehensive approach to immigration reform. While it isn't fair that many young people were brought here through no fault of their own, granting illegal immigrants amnesty every few years also isn't fair to the families who do immigrate legally. An immigration reform policy Congress takes up must first strengthen border security and then address the illegal immigrants already here. To do otherwise would be treating a symptom instead of the root problem. End quote. That's Congressman Rick Crawford. Now, let me say there's another argument that you hear that immigration reform or, deportation is going to destroy families. I was talking to some family the other day about this, and this is you never hear this. Look, I know America is the greatest country on earth still. Look, we've got, essentially we've got a welfare program that is very sympathetic to unskilled immigrants coming here. I mean, that's a fact. But you do hear this as far as the kids go. Like, let's say you got a family that crossed illegally, and now their kids are here, and it's like, and maybe their parents are getting deported, and they say you're going to separate families because they're going to leave your kids here. They're going to leave their kids here because it's a better place than where they came from. Let me ask you something. Would you leave your kids here? I don't know anybody that's asked that, but would you do that? I mean, if they were I'm a first-time father now of 8-9 weeks. And if that was my plight and I'm going home and there's just no way I'm going to say like, no, whatever, you hang out here because it's a quote better life. I'm pretty sure I'm 100% positive not leaving my child in another country so that they can stay and I'll go home. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not going to happen. And that's the case where you immigrate here and then you're born here, But anyway, let's go on. We got Steve Womack, Congressman Steve Womack. The issue of DACA-eligible young people is a manifestation of a broken immigration enforcement system. I have a heart for their plight. At the same time, I believe that part of the genius of America is that we are a nation of laws. The president is right. Congress has the responsibility to address this issue, and now is the time to do so. With thoughtful debate, jobs can be protected, lawful immigration can be championed, and the proper relief can come for the young people who know only America as their country and who continue to work hard to achieve that American dream. So we can, even in that statement, even though you say the president's right, I mean, in that statement, you can say that there's going to be people here that are like, we can't deport all these people. There's going to be people here saying, yeah, America's their only home. And all I can tell you is this. We do need to be a nation of laws, but if you're not going to control who comes here, and you're not going to fix a problem that is decades in the making. And by the way, all of you liberals and leftists out there who have a huge problem with Donald Trump doing what he did today, are you going to pay for it personally? Are you going to pay for it? Are you personally going to say, you know what? Yeah, you can come in. You can have unfettered access to all of my resources personally. Because what you're really in favor of right now is for people to have unfettered access to all of our resources collectively. And you're okay with that. But if it hit you personally, what would you do? Over at Jacob Kaufman, over at the publicly funded KUAF.com. Arkansas's political reactions to Trump's DACA. Let's see, we got Tom Cotton says he wants to offer protection to the 800,000. This is 2 hours ago. Undocumented people who enter the country as children. Cotton spoke on the conservative Hugh Hewitt show on Tuesday, quote, Trump has said repeatedly that he wants to take care of the DACA recipients. I have no objection to that, but we have to recognize that we are going to be two negative consequences of that action. One, we create a new opportunity for citizenship through chained migration for their parents, the very people who violated the law by bringing them here as children in the first place. And two, we encourage other people around the world to bring their children here illegally. Yeah, you don't want to do that. It is an incentive game. And whatever they do, you guys got to have you guys better enact the right kind of incentives. Tom Cotton went on, so we have to do something to stop chain migration. My bill does that, and we have to do something to enhance enforcement. Now, Cotton here is talking about the RAISE Act, which I have said for the last month or so. His statements on the RAISE Act, I believe, are one of his best moments, the several that he's had on the national stage, because it makes an incredible amount of sense to shift from the low-skill immigration to people who are more qualified and are immediately going to be paying taxes, immediately going to be, benefiting society. That's a very simple, logical, coherent legislative package, he writes. It's not comprehensive reform. It's not the Gang of Eight bill. It's not trying to blow. Ocean. It's trying to take the action that Democrats say they want, which is to give legal status to approximately 750,000 of these people in their 20s and 30s, while also mitigating the consequences of that action. Let's see. They have some other quotes here. Is that the Democrat? No, let me just keep going here. Anyway, there's a lot of quotes here that you can get to. We've done enough of them, but let's get to a local, an old local official. Joel, will you throw that up there? Do you guys remember Davy Carter? Davy Carter is the former Speaker of the House. He is a Republican. And you see that there. That's his pinned tweet there. He throws Twitter up there. You can watch this at paulharrell.com. You can watch this at Facebook Live or YouTube. Do what? Yeah, isn't that a bad word? This is Davy Carter's... do what? Yeah. This is Davy Carter's retweet. He's retweeting Politico. This was... I don't know. This is back on September the 3rd, so it's been up there for a while. Breaking, Trump has decided to end DACA with a 6-month delay. Davy Carter, this is the former Republican Speaker of the House, or the former Speaker of the House, who I assume still is a Republican, even though I know he's campaigned against Republicans. Davy Carter, quote, "This guy is a real a-hole, and the Congress doesn't have a backbone. Bad combo." And then he scrolled down here, former Arkansas Speaker of the House. This was Mike Beebe's pick, by the way, and torpedoed, I believe, Terry Rice. If you're a DACA recipient in Arkansas, this is 3 hours ago. If you're a DACA recipient in Arkansas, please reach out to me. And he gives his email address. I'd like to help as many of you as I can get your story out. This was a retweet of an Arkansas Times article saying that there are an estimated 6,000 to 10,000 DACA recipients in Arkansas and about 800,000 nationwide. Also, scrolling down 4 hours ago, Davy Carter, quote, he writes, "This is just so damn pathetic." He writes that, it's an end quote there, and that's a retweet of CNN's Jim Acosta, who tweeted, "When asked whether DACA will be attached to the wall, Sarah Huckabee Sanders all but says yes." So apparently, former Speaker of the House, not a huge fan of building the wall. I just find all of this interesting. Can Can we conclusively say that people run as a Republican because you know that's the only way you're going to get elected? I mean, because Davy Carter represented a district out of Cabot originally. I know he now lives in Jonesboro, up here in my neck of the woods. But can we say conclusively at this point that it is a fact that there are Democrats or progressives that run as Republicans just so that they can achieve power? Just a thought. By the way, what did Planned Parenthood say about DACA? I know that's on everyone's minds. Joe, go to the next tweet, please. What did Planned Parenthood say about DACA? The Trump administration continues their harsh attacks against immigrant communities rooted in racism and white supremacist ideology. Hashtag here to stay. Ending DACA is heartless and cruel. We'll continue to fight to protect immigrants, dreamers, and DACA recipients who are members of the Planned Parenthood community. Nothing like a immigrant community that you want to offer abortions to, I guess. That's if you look at abortions and how they're plummeting right now because people going to pregnancy resource and help centers and things like that, choosing life. I mean, business-wise, if no one gets an abortion, there's no money to be made off of it. That's certainly happening. Ending DACA is heartless and cruel. Listen to what Planned Parenthood. Ending DACA is heartless and cruel because we want to be able to kill your babies for you, and we want to be able to do that with you here in America, legally. That's what DACA is saying. Don't end DACA. Do you have an abortion provider? We want to be it. Give us your business. But it is interesting that they call it heartless and cruel. I have to imagine that that is the emotional response of most people who are against DACA are against DACA because you believe it's heartless and cruel. I would imagine that former Speaker of the House, Davy Carter, believes that ending DACA is heartless and cruel as well. That seems to be the consensus when you, when people are objecting to this. Can we talk about the Constitution for a second? You heard Steve Womack, you heard Rick Crawford. I know we didn't get to Frenchell, Bruce Westerman. By the way, Bruce Westerman is going to be on the program Thursday. We got Bruce Westerman on the program Thursday. You don't want to miss it. Can we talk about the Constitution for a second? This was Obama. It was an unconstitutional act. It was an unconstitutional act. People who are dreamers were not being targeted for deportation under Obama. But what does he do? He goes ahead and he makes some giant political straw man so that now when Trump does the right thing constitutionally, well, now, and like Sarah Huckabee Sanders said today, these people are not, if DACA does expire in 6 months, these people are not priority deports. I mean, they're not priority deportation subjects or whatever. Targets, I guess, is the name I'm trying to think of. But anyway, tell me what you think. 870-275-9799 is the telephone number. We have Kelly on our Facebook Live video. Kelly writing that the rule of law scored 1 today. You can call or text me, 870-275-9799, talking about DACA, talking about Arkansas's response, and also people who are clearly Democrats but used to be Republican speakers of the House in Arkansas. We're talking about those people, too. 870-275-9799 or Facebook Live, paulharrell.com or YouTube. Back in a minute.
Who's next to Zipline?
Me, and I'm really excited about this.
Sir, I'm sorry. The Zipline has a 350-pound weight limit, and frankly, I do not think it would be safe for you.
Oh, that's okay. I self-identify as 180 pounds, so it's cool.
Sir, that doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm afraid we can't let you ride the Zipline. You're too heavy. I'm sorry.
I can't believe this. I thought we had evolved as a society. I thought this was America, but I guess this is just my plight. First slavery, and now fat shaming.
Sir, again, I'm really sorry.
You listen to me. If you don't let me ride, not only will I sue this company for discrimination, I will sue you for damages because right now my feelings are so hurt And I feel embarrassed because I'm holding up the line.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Watch it, mister.
Look, okay, I'm sorry. I just don't think it would be safe for you.
You don't understand. I self-identify as skinny. So you have to let me ride the zip line. The Constitution says so. I get to define my own reality.
Oh, you know what? Okay, fine. Whatever. Ride the zip line. Mike, let this man ride the zip line.
Thank you. Now watch as my self-identity trumps your bigotry. See you on the other side, racist. Here I go! Doctor, thank goodness. What's the prognosis?
Sir, we've done everything we can, and you only have seconds to live.
No, you cannot say that. I do not self-identify as a dead person.
PHP Parody.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise. All right, so I apologize. I didn't bring you the most up-to-date information on our former House Speaker. No, a lot of people, Paul, what are you doing? Why are we talking about a former Speaker of the House, Davy Carter? Well, it's just fascinating to me how liberal people will be once they get out of office. And, you know, of course, it didn't really matter. He was pretty liberal. I mean, didn't he send the state police after? He sent the state police after somebody to force Obamacare through over and over and over again here at the Arkansas level. Really, I don't even want to talk about Davy Carter anymore. He retweeted this Alex Burns guy, whatever, on Twitter, New York Times. A very forceful pro-DACA statement from the Republican-aligned Chamber of Commerce. Who here believes the lie that the Chamber of Commerce is now a Republican-aligned organization? You believe that lie, Joe? It is a lie. Thank you. Oh, you're raising your hand saying, no, yes, it is a lie. Okay. Yeah, it is a complete lie. The Chamber of Commerce is in the business of big business and, essentially using the government to, quote, create jobs, but really what they're doing is just enriching the Chamber of Commerce. They are not in the business of actually standing up for small businesses anymore. They don't care about your low wages. They don't care about wage stagnation. They don't care about that because unfettered access to this country via illegal immigration is great for big business and, in turn, is great for the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce, of course, they're going to be pro-DACA. And yet, what is, quote, Republican Davy Carter is out there claiming? And look, if you go back and look at Davy Carter's tweets, he's probably still going to claim to be a Republican, okay? But he's a Jeb Bush Republican. He's a huge fan of the Bushes. You just go back and look at some of his tweets. That's what he is. And so that's the type, of establishment person you're dealing with. And in that vein, he fit in great down at the Marble Palace. He was just really, a precursor to Asa Hutchinson, if you really want to be quite honest about it. Oh, gosh. Joe, is there a statement from Asa on this? Will you please look? Oh, man, I bet it's going to be amazing. I mean, amazingly bad. I just dawned on me. What does Asa think about rescinding DACA? Oh, man, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's going to think it's the greatest thing ever. I don't know. Maybe he'll put it on his I strongly in his re-election campaign mailers. I strongly endorse President Trump and DACA. I don't know, man. I don't know. I just thought about it. That's pretty funny. Okay, that's it for the first hour. We've got one more hour coming your way next. We're going to talk about our whiteboard. What does it mean, FBI interview, as you see here? What does that mean? If you if you read that Demgaz article this week, this weekend, you'll know it was a whole history of general improvement money, the corruption behind it, the investigations. And apparently a lot of Arkansas legislators have been interviewed by the FBI. So many, in fact, that if you haven't been interviewed, you should be worried. We will talk about that when we come back. Don't go anywhere, folks.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
But it's the data is not collected in a way that makes alignment easy. So that's the idea behind this.
Yeah.
Let's create one standard. Let's create a central place to put all of this so we can make decisions and we can actually, so we can do estimates better, so we can bring a lot more transparency to folks whenever we give a type of estimation of a decision that the government's trying to make.
Yeah, I think I think this could be really good for a lot of reasons. And I know you said it was going to be slow process, and that's because it is the government doing things, and these bureaucracies are operating under a 1970s, 1960s mentality. I talked a little bit about this yesterday, and it's like, hey, we're in the 21st century. We got all this technology. The private sector does not operate this way. You don't have a million different ways, to do things. You don't give each, you know what I mean? There's a standards, there's
right.
ways, and so that's why I feel like this is good. And I also feel like, and this is what dawned on me, because this is something that needs to be done for a long time, but a lot of times in committee, you'll have a member of this bureaucracy, whatever it is, that comes to the end of the table and gives you data. And there has been examples of those people just being proven wrong. Some of the stuff that they've said is just wrong. And I don't know. So do you think maybe this could provide a check on this agency head? Well, does that match up with what the central hub says?
Absolutely. So, as a first-term legislator, and the only experience that I can draw on is in the private sector. When I go into meetings and negotiations, to your point, I'm sitting across from at the table with someone who is throwing out numbers, right? And they might. It's not even necessarily that they're wrong. It's just those are the numbers that they've received, and they're measuring whatever metric or variable that's a completely different variable that you're even trying to get to. So you have to create some type of standard in order to make these measured decisions. And so to your point, in committees, we have individuals at the end of the table stating quote-unquote facts or referencing numbers, and then someone else pulls out another number, and now we're like, well, how are we supposed to make this decision? So to that point, the whole idea is to have a standard of how you actually measure whatever variable, no matter what department you're even referring to.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, I really think this is good. Now, how did you? I know you said there was some of this stuff was in place before you were down there, but you're the sponsor of this bill. So was this a lot of your idea? I mean, is this something you're passionate about? I mean, you do IT, correct?
I do. Some of my background is with information systems, so it's certainly not my idea. I did take an existing study that was presented to that committee that I referenced earlier. It's Advanced Communication Technology. It's where you have a lot of the telecommunication and broadband issues come through. And so, when we're sitting here talking about this, I just knew it was something with my background that I could kind of speak the language, that whenever we actually got the business partners, so to speak, involved with, I knew the implications of what we'd be doing, and certainly had a ton of support from Representative Meeks, who's the chairperson of the committee, as well as the vice chair, Representative Ward Sabin. And so they were all very helpful and understood the need for having a standard on any given number within the government. And I just think it's really, if we do this right, it really can transform the way we make decisions. No longer are we going to, maybe I sound a little too optimistic. I was going to say no longer are we going to make decisions just based on the emotion at the time, but we can back up emotion with numbers, right? And which, again, we do have that somewhat, but when we don't have these systems integrated to one central location, I would say just about every time a number is presented, you would be right to question it.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this, because I kind of feel like I really support this. We're talking with State Representative Austin McCollum, and he's gracious enough. He's calling us in between flights. You're not going to miss your flight, are you?
If I did, it'd be totally worth it, right? I'm here with. No, I'm right next to my gate. I think I'll be fine.
So I feel like a step further is, because this really is dealing with bureaucracies. It's bringing them under, I think, more scrutiny, and I think that's what needs to happen. And there's a couple of concepts out there. One of them is called performance-based budgeting, and this is where the bureaucracy gets funded every year, and then they have to come back to the committee and essentially prove that they have performed. So before they get funding, there would be a standard set, and the legislature would have to approve this standard of, okay, these are the metrics that you're going to meet, and then you come back before them and you have to prove that you have in fact done and met these criteria, or if
the maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
So I did make a mistake last hour. It is, in fact, on Davy Carter, former Speaker of the House, Davy Carter's Twitter handle. He is, in fact, a former Republican, is what it says. He is a former Republican. So I just wanted to correct the record on that. He now claims to be some sort of independent. Very useful to the Jeb Bush Republicans of the day. Anyway, the phone number is 870-275-9799. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. Joe, do you know what I finished today? I finished the Impression of the Session montage. I'm not playing it here today. It will debut at the Arkansas Tea Party Alliance Saturday, September the 16th, which is from 8. It'll be from 8 to 4 that day down in Little Rock. If you want to buy tickets to that, I'll be there. A bunch of other great organizations will be there. And Conduit will be there, and you guys seriously need to go. You don't have to be a member of the Tea Party to go. You just got to be. I mean, if you listen to this program, you'd love it down there. And it's just a day where you're going to make some great connections and get some great information about limiting Arkansas government and the state of things. Well, I will tell you something. This impression of the session is going to be available at the Tea Party, and it may be because I've done a lot of montages. I've done a lot of them, and I can't help it. I kind of am known for making long ones. Like, I mean, I can't help it, but the montages that I make most of the time, I just get carried away, and I'm just like, this is a great piece of information. Oh, and so is this. This is a great piece of information. I just want you guys to have this. And so it's a 30-minute. It's 30 minutes, and it's going to be in video form. It's not just going to be audio. There's going to be video accompanying. It's going to have the legislators up there, the faces and things like that, pictures and what they're saying. And I want to make this the most condensed as far as information being transferred to you, the most dense and condensed version at the same time. Meaning it's going to be 30 minutes of your life. But I feel like after you listen to this montage of me interviewing legislator after legislator after legislator about what happened in the session this year, I think it may be the most informative 30 minutes that you'll ever listen to on a particular subject, and it being the Marble Palace and everything Arkansas politics. Really everything they don't want you to know. Like they're not governing the way they campaign. But it's like nobody talks about it here. I mean, people barely talk about it in the mainstream media about Washington, D.C. Nobody talks about it here. Now, on to the mainstream media. The Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, every now and then, surprises me. Lisa Hammersley, who has written about the GIF scandal before, as well as Bill Bowden, they write this headline: investigation shows Arkansas legislators directed state money to 2 organizations. Now, a lot of this is old news. You know, when I'm reading it, it's a very lengthy piece, comprehensive, but I'm reading this and I think, well, where have you guys been? I mean, I know you've reported on it. This is kind of like a timeline. It's more like it's a history of everything to do with GIF. They talk about Mike Wilson, former legislator Democrat, who has sued the state multiple times saying GIF is unconstitutional. Giving legislators money for them to decide where it goes is unconstitutional because the Arkansas General Assembly, they are in charge of appropriating and spending money, not individual legislators. And by the way, there will be oral arguments in front of the Arkansas Supreme Court on this lawsuit coming this Thursday, which is the biggest news out of this entire piece that was published yesterday. So, I don't know who assigns. I don't know how it works. I don't know who gets assigned what story. I appreciate the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette for writing this story, but it's like, what average Arkansan's going to read this whole thing? That's my real question. What average Arkansan? Instead, this is a story that ensnares one legislator, 2 legislators. It ensnares lobbyists. It ensnares consulting groups. It ensnares other legislators potentially who haven't been indicted yet, one of them being Jake Files, who's also in a ton of trouble. Still hasn't resigned, by the way. Thanks a lot, Arkansas GOP, with your higher standards. Thanks a lot, Arkansas Republican Party, with your we're different than the Democrats. You guys are election manipulators. That's what you are. You guys are against free elections. You guys are against a district, a populace of people having an adequate representative for the upcoming fiscal session. You're against that because you'd rather bow down to what Asa Hutchinson wants. Not getting Jake Files to resign so you don't have to call a special election so you can ensure that State Representative Matt Pitch gets to run for the seat. In a special election, he wouldn't be able to run for the seat because he's already in elected office. It's embarrassing. You got a guy who is, mentioned as committing a crime in a sworn FBI affidavit under penalty of perjury, and you still think he needs to be in office. Arkansas Republican Party, you guys are an embarrassment right now, and you're bringing everybody else down with you. To the media. I don't know. Does this mean that they've published this long, story? Does that mean that now all of a sudden they can just, not report on this again until something breaks? Maybe. I don't know. I do appreciate them writing it, though. I just wish it was, come on, folks. The media will not let anything go that a Republican does nationally. They don't do that here. Now, you tell me why that is. Donald Trump can't get an ounce of positive media coverage from CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC. But why doesn't that happen here in Arkansas with Asa Hutchinson? Why all of his mainstream media coverage is positive? They don't check him on anything. The only time they give him any hard questions at all is if he's trying to pass what is perceived as a pro-Second Amendment bill. Only in Arkansas. I saw this great meme the other day. Only in Arkansas, when Arkansas politicians double down on Second Amendment restrictions, do they call it that they're actually enhancing our Second Amendment freedoms. So you guys know a lot of this. It's old news. We've covered it before in this Democrat Gazette piece, but Ecclesia College has about 150 students, but they've collected $717,000 with the support of 11 different lawmakers. Now, this is the same scandal that's ensnared John Woods. It's the same scandal, former senator that's snared former state rep Micah Neal, who has pled guilty to these charges. There's also Decision Point. We haven't mentioned Decision Point since all of this broke earlier this year, which is an 84-bed center, a treatment center in Bentonville. It's gotten $746,000 on the approval of 15 state House and Senate members. It just goes on and on and on about the amount of money that was going. Now, if you're a state representative or if you're a state legislature, I want you to answer this question. Put yourself in their shoes, okay? What would make you give your allotted or your portion of general improvement money, what would make you give yours away to your state, to another state senator who wants it? Like, what would, because we have that admission here. So, everybody gets equal share. The House gets to split the same amount of money the Senate does. The Senate has there's only 35 senators. There's 100 House members. So a senator's in control of a lot more money. But what would make you say, hey, John Woods, who, by the way, we now know, if you read this entire article, if you have the time, we now know why former Senator John Woods was so good at getting bills passed, was so good at, I don't know, maybe this is what he did to get, he was good at getting bills passed. Think about it. Okay, yeah, I'll figure out a way to get this bill passed for you, and by the way, I'm going to need your share of general improvement money. And then I'm going to give it to this college, Ecclesia, or I'm going to give it to this healthcare entity, Decision Point, or AmeriCorps, or whatever they want to call it, because there's several aliases here as far as I'm concerned. It's that legislature that goes down there and carves out a financial niche. I would imagine you're a lot more motivated to get a bill passed for a colleague if there's a bonus in it for you. Like, I'm going to take your share of general improvement fund money and I'm going to have it laundered to myself, because that's exactly what's been going on here. Now let's just look. I was surprised. Let's see. Bart Hester, Senator Bart Hester. This is when they're talking about how there was a need there. And there's some people that are upset. I've heard this from many legislators. They say, general improvement funds are actually a good thing. It's just a shame that, there's corruption and now none of us can have them. Of course, where did they go? They went to the governor, giving him more authority under the Rural Services Department or Rural Development Department or whatever, which is under the Arkansas Department for Economic Development, which is, of course, where they love to give away your taxpayer dollars to private companies in the name of job creation. You know, Arkansas business owner, you know what I mean. They take your tax dollars from your business that's paying working Arkansans already, and they give it to a competitor for your skilled workforce. They're going to come in here and be able to hire your guys away at a higher wage. You know, your tax dollars being used to create jobs, but really it's being used to make it harder on you to do business. But it talks about Senator Bart Hester. Let me go to the top here. Hang on a second. I want to get to the top. Talks about ecclesia grants. John Woods, Micah Neal. Neal has pled guilty. The 24 other current and former Arkansas legislators' grants to the college and treatment center totals more than $600,000. None of those 24 lawmakers have been charged with any crime. Their individual grants range from $1,000 to $100,000. At least 3 acknowledge they have been interviewed by federal authorities. I had heard a lot of people were being interviewed before Neal and Woods were indicted in January, said Senator Bart Hester. Records show Hester approved 2 grants totaling $60,000 to Ecclesia College in 2013 and 2014 from his General Improvement Fund grant allocation of $690,000. Federal authorities contacted him soon after the indictments. Bart Hester, by the way, is a Republican from Cave Springs. The paper quotes him as saying, "This can't be reality. You start wondering if this is some kind of Netflix TV series." I can only assume he means House of Cards. Right? So then we find another one here. Listen to this. Hester, quote, Hester can't remember who asked him to endorse his first $30,000 grant to Ecclesia College to build a dormitory. He met the president, Paris, and walked the campus, which offered little student housing. I thought it was a worthy cause to support, Hester said. I saw the need that was there. Woods, listen to this, Woods' persuasion, so Senator John Woods, who has been indicted, his persuasion was key to Bart Hester's second $30,000 grant. Quote, Senator Woods was a senior member of the legislature who had helped me a lot. There was a lot of trust and a lot of appreciation for the time he spent. So, what does that say? I mean, I read that and I had to read it about a million times before I realized. So Senator Hester is admitting here that he's just admitting something that I find a new development. He is admitting that John Woods convinced him to give his allocation of general improvement money so that John Woods would then send it, and he's being accused of getting kickbacks of that. And he says, why? Because Senator Woods helped him out a lot. I mean, this is an admission of the way things work down there, of the culture down there. And yeah, am I approaching it from an idealistic? Yeah, you bet I am, because I'm a taxpayer, and this is why government must be limited. Now, who else is mentioned in all of this? The former president of the Senate, also former chief of staff of Asa Hutchinson, Michael Lamoureux. Lamoureux said he sent all his allocation of general improvement money, $1 million, directly to state agency for his district. Lamoureux recalls that Woods, learning about the existence of unallocated general improvement fund money, then went to the West Central District Agency under the Senate president's name. Maybe now we know where Jake Files got the idea. Woods asked for part of it, Lamoureux said. Lamoureux said he approved Woods getting an additional $100,000 to allocate however he chose across those projects. He chose to allocate it to Ecclesia College. Then, of course, Ecclesia College had hired a consultant that they paid with the general improvement money, a portion of it, and then the consultant paid a portion back to the legislators. That was the laundering scheme. A lot more clever than Jake Files' laundering scheme, which was to have an employee go open a bank account and give him the money. We have to take a break, folks. 870-275-9799. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program, brought to you by Conduit Media. Back in a minute. Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org, and stand up for small business in Arkansas.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
It's a PHP parody.
Hey, man, you got any of that marble rock?
Yeah, I've got the hookup.
Thanks. I need a fix real bad. I'm itching to grow some government.
How much you need?
I'm gonna need a taxpayer's dime bag.
No problem, sir. 1 taxpayer dime of marble rock. Enjoy.
Thanks, man. They don't call it Little Rock for nothing. Am I right?
Did you know your state representative or state senator may be addicted to growing government? The drug is called marble rock, and too much of it will cause marble fever. Watch for the warning signs. Does your legislator suddenly display a lack of humility when faced with basic questions? Does he or she suddenly develop hubris and pride that was not present during the campaign for office? These are signs they might be smoking the terrible drug, marble rock. The solution? Detox. Vote for detox. Vote to send them home for their own good.
Warning! Some politicians once voted out of office will not go home and stay in Little Rock to get their fix by lobbying, also known as the Burris Syndrome.
PHP parody.
If that is true, Joe.
He puts the Paul in politics. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media
We'll
Group.
get to that here in just a second. Folks, I do. If you own a business out there, I just want to remind you that ask yourself the question. This is what you need to do. This is just me recommending this to you. Are you prepared to handle things like cyber criminals and ransomware? Just if you are, great. But I just want you to know that you might want to call iTex. I would recommend it. iTex is an Arkansas company that's committed to deploying the best cybersecurity solutions to protect your business and your bottom line. Security threats are constantly evolving. So are the needs of your business. You want to be secure, so be proactive. Equip your business with the best cybersecurity available with iTex. They are the techs to trust. Call them today. The consultation is free. 870-336-9778. That's 870-336-9778. Or their website, itexusa.com. That's itexusa.com. So listen to this. This is interesting. This storm in Miami, this storm coming to Miami, we think, or coming to Florida, is a beast. Hurricane Irma. the strongest Atlantic. If you guys have family, just check in on them down there. Tell them to leave. Tell them to leave and go somewhere else, and don't try to stick around it. I mean, it's. They're saying it's now the strongest storm, and yeah, I feel like I'm buying into the media hype on this, but it's now the strongest Atlantic hurricane outside the Gulf and Caribbean ever recorded. It is a Category 5, and it could potentially devastate. And there is to say, well, why do you need to tell somebody to leave in a hurricane? Well, Joe, you were just telling me that there was some survey out there saying that 60% of people surveyed think brown cows produce chocolate milk, right? I think those are your. I think that's the demographic that we're trying to get to evacuate. Wouldn't that be great? Oh, it's a brown cow. It produces chocolate milk. If we got to correct the record on that survey, we'll do it when we come back, okay? We got to take a break, folks. We're up against the hard break. Phone number 870-275-9799. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Backup emotion with numbers, right? And which, again, we do have that somewhat, but when we don't have these systems integrated to one central location, I would say just about every time a number is presented, you would be right to question it.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this, because I kind of feel like I really support this. We're talking with State Representative Austin McCollum, and he's gracious enough. He's calling us in between flights. You're not going to miss your flight, are you?
You know, if I did, it'd be totally worth it, right? I'm here with. No, I'm right next to my gate. I think I'll be fine.
So I feel like a step further is, because this really is dealing with bureaucracies. It's bringing them under, I think, more scrutiny, and I think that's what needs to happen. And there's a couple of concepts out there. One of them is called performance-based budgeting, and this is where, the bureaucracy gets funded every year, and then they have to come back to the committee and essentially prove that they have performed. So before they get funding, there would be a standard set, and the legislature would have to approve this standard of, okay, these are the metrics that you're going to meet, and then you come back before them and you have to prove that you have in fact done and met these criteria. Or, if you don't, then maybe we spend that money somewhere else next time. And these are massive reforms. I believe this is what the people of Arkansas have been asking for. But, would you support something like that to kind of give you guys more oversight over these agencies in the executive branch?
From what I understand from that sounds like something that I could get behind. Anytime that you're dealing with money that's not yours, I think it's fair to create a system that you have to prove anything that you do beforehand, what your intentions are and how you arrived at that number. And more oversight, I think, is a great thing. And if that particular solution provides that oversight, it sounds like something I could get behind.
Well, I think that certainly is a good answer, and there's other concepts out there like this, and there's other states that already do this, and it's just that Arkansas is not. I think this piece of legislation, Act 912, is a really good piece of legislation, Austin, and I know this was your freshman year, and I want to say congratulations again on the Calvin Coolidge Hero of Freedom, as well as accomplishing something that I believe can actually put us on the path to solving some of the madness and getting more efficient down there. I think that's good, so I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, well, thank you, and thanks for giving me the time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. Austin McCollum, be safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Folks, it is Johnny Cash Friday, and we're going to take a break and listen to some music. And you can give me a phone call or a text message, 870-275-9799. Back in a moment.
Paul live at paulharrell.com. It's free and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because the Liberty Machine never sleeps.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back as we join with our other affiliates. I do have a text message here. This is interesting. This is interesting to me. But I mean, look, sometimes maybe I'm unclear. I don't know. Text message here with a 479 number. Paul, as I listen to you, I'm not sure if you're down on Republicans who are not the conservative politician they should be, or you are a Democrat down on all Republicans. I really think that Asa is a Democrat who runs as a Republican, and he needs to go. I'm a conservative who is against big government, and I believe that all elected officials should have term limits. Thank you, and let me know where you stand. Well, listener, if you're still listening, yeah, I'm a limited government conservative. I'm a constitutional conservative. And, I'm down on Republicans who campaign one way and then do the opposite because the Republican Party platform is actually pretty solid. Issue by issue, I believe that really does reflect the majority of Arkansans, just the vast majority of Arkansans. And so now I'm not down on all Republicans. I don't talk about it as much as I should, but there are some great ones who are down there. The ones who won the Calvin Coolidge Awards, the ones who are at the top of scorecards, like Conduit for Commerce, like the Family Council and others. There are some good ones. They're just not in control of the leadership. That's what you got to understand. Right now, if I seem like I'm attacking all Republicans, please don't think I'm a Democrat or a liberal progressive. I used to be one when I was in college, but please don't think that. I'm targeting Republicans who are in the leadership because they are the ones who are controlling a lot of the sheep. Unfortunately, not all of them are sheep, but a lot of them are. I mean, I can tell you right now, some of the character of the Republicans down there, if you had limited government conservatives in the governorship, in the leadership, they would follow along. They would march in lockstep with them. I mean, if you just actually changed out the leadership, you would have very little dissent in terms of what's going on. But all right, Joe, I got that. So I quoted it wrong. It's not 60% of Americans that think brown milk comes from brown cows, or I'm sorry, chocolate milk comes from brown cows. Right? I quoted it wrong.
Yeah, it's 7%.
Okay, sorry.
Okay,
I misheard you, and then that's the danger of me just saying what I think I hear. Anyway, go ahead.
So I found this article, and it said 7% of American adults believe chocolate milk comes from brown cows. Well, this is from PETA. Well,
this is why you have to tell people to evacuate.
Yes.
In a hurricane, by the way.
Okay, so when I found this article, I didn't find the PETA article originally. I found this article, the one that they tweeted out. So this is the actual article it comes from.
So a local NBC41.com article.
Yeah,
that's the original.
Yeah, so this is where it comes from. But I did some math. Okay, they were saying 16.4 million people, $16.4 million people. That's what 7% would round out to be, for the or that's how many people would believe this based off of the number of people that believe this from their survey. Well, 7%, if you include the population of America, because they only interviewed adults for this survey. Okay. Well, odds are these adults are teaching it to people who are younger than them, their kids or
this is your deduction.
This is my deduction. So odds are, if this is actually 7% where they teach people who are younger than them these things, and they believe, let's say they believe them.
This is crazy.
Because this is something kind of out there.
Well, I mean, a lot of people maybe, if you're in an urban environment, you might not ever even see a cow, much less a dairy farm.
That's true. So what I did was I looked up the population of America from the last census, and there's 323 million people from last year, and this article was written in June of this year. So I did some math. I multiplied this by 0.07, which is 7%, and that's over 22 million Americans.
So if it actually is that scientific,
22 million Americans should believe this by their 7% rule knowledge thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot.
This is why you tell people to evacuate when a hurricane's on its way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same guy, Jerry Seinfeld. It's the same idea. Jerry Seinfeld had a bit where he talked about, you ever see a guy driving down the freeway with a mattress on his car, and his mattress is tied to his hood of his car. And Seinfeld always say he always also has the arm, though, that's hanging out of the car window, holding on to the mattress. And I believe Seinfeld said something like, so this guy, men just kind of think that, they're Superman. If the wind catches this giant rectangle at 70 miles an hour, your arm's there to, if the ropes fail, you've got your arm. That's the thing. I don't know. But I have family in Miami, and I am reaching out to them, making sure that they're making appropriate preparations. I do have a theory, though. I do think that sometimes the media, and I'm not saying that this is the case now. I just think in hindsight, there's been a lot of times where the media does hype up hurricanes or other disasters, and it doesn't end up being much. And I have a friend who had a little bit of a conspiracy going on about weather, any kind of weather, tornado season, certainly in winter storms and in hurricanes, that you got to remember. Just remember this. Every time you open up your Weather Channel app on your phone to check the weather, to check for the snowstorm, to check on Hurricane Irma, the Weather Channel is making money. That is a free app, and there are ads at the bottom of every one of those. And every time you open that app, there's a few pennies, that are going to the Weather Channel, or going to whoever owns the Weather Channel. Just remember that there is a financial or a potential financial motivation to make people think that the next storm is going to be, the worst. Now, this one very well could be. It doesn't look good. I even texted my family and I said, okay, I'm buying the media hype on this one. Like, I'm all in. I think it is going to be really bad.
Yeah. Two of my buddies are really into storm tracking, just like major storms, and they said Irma's getting to the point where, Irma's already a Category 4, and it hasn't even...
Oh, they say it's a Category 5 now.
Oh, is it?
Well,
this was the last time I heard, which was yesterday.
I saw it. It was right across my desk just a second ago, that it's up to a Category 5 now.
Yeah, my buddies were talking about it. It's a Category 4, and it hasn't even hit, some of the islands in the Gulf yet, some of the major islands.
Yeah, they're saying in Miami to expect an evacuation order. I saw that headline about Wednesday or Thursday. They're saying Miami should expect an evacuation order. Now, I don't know. There was a few trajectories that were saying that this thing could still hook up to the northwest real hard, just straight north, and then carry kind of into the coast. I don't know if that's even a thing now. Are they just planning on it going right over Florida into the Gulf of Mexico now? But yeah, hey, if you got family anywhere in Florida, just check on them. They probably have better information than you do if they're not one of these 7% people that think that chocolate milk come from brown cows. Then maybe they're, what's a hurricane? You live on the Gulf Coast, man. I've just had too much chocolate milk. All right, moving on to more serious matters. Hope you can pick up my sarcasm here.
We're going to call this serious, or moving on to?
I apologize, Joe. I really do. I'm sorry, man. I texted Joe this weekend. I finally watched Wonder Woman.
You texted me last night at 10 o'clock, I think.
Yeah. Look, I tried. For those of you who just joining us, I'm sorry. I apologize if you're these Marvel superhero movies or the DC. This is a tired argument, and I don't know why I keep bringing it on myself here. But I really did, how I was rooting for Wonder Woman to be a bad movie, because I do like the DC comic characters. I wanted them to scrap the terrible films that they've made recently, so they have to start over. And that's why I wanted Wonder Woman to be bad. It wasn't that bad do that.
I thought it was pretty good.
But I don't think it was a good movie at all. It wasn't a good comic book movie, I guess is what I would say.
I thought it was good, but we've talked about this.
I was so disappointed.
Yeah, but we've talked about this since we started the show today, and I agree with you that whenever they're on the island of the Amazons, after they leave it, there's a complete tonal shift
in
the movie, man. And it ruins.
Something happened.
It could very well ruin the movie for people who don't like that.
I don't know what it was. It was like it was two separate movies, and
that I can definitely agree with.
and that's just because here's the thing. I'm comparing this to the vast success that's on the market right now, which is the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And, maybe this movie would have been amazing in some sort of alternate reality where there is no vast Marvel...
Where Marvel would have flopped on Iron Man 1.
It's like this is like some weird cinematic chess. They've been doing this since 2003 with the first Iron Man, of just more now than a decade of movies coming out as planned, and they all build on each other, and it's really I don't think film has ever seen anything like it.
I think what really punched DC in the face was the fact that when Christopher Nolan, after the third Batman movie that he made, when he said he was done making superhero movies forever, like that, he's done. I think
he was entitled to that because he made 2 good ones.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think that's what really socked DC in the face was when he said, "I'm done."
Yeah.
That's what really kind of killed him.
I would agree with that too. But anyway, I thought of you. I tried to like the movie. It was contrived.
See,
and I hate to say that, right? Because now I'm a big chauvinist, and you're saying a woman superhero movie can't survive on its own. Well, I don't think this one did. I don't even know what her powers are, Joe. That's the thing. Like everything that they did, they set up. She's a demigod. Okay, I got that.
The previously established powers of Wonder Woman are not what are in the movie.
And then all of a sudden, spoiler alert, all of a sudden, you see her, her love interest dies, and she gets more powers somehow and goes into Wonder Woman beast mode, and they don't explain that.
I'm trying to think about another...
It's just
maddening. Have you seen The Flash, the TV show?
Just barely. But,
okay, so there are times where Barry, he gets really angry when he's doing his job, and he unlocks powers that he didn't have before. For instance, in season 1, I believe.
Well, this is a Marvel suit. No, this is a DC.
This is DC.
Okay,
it's DC. Same thing.
All right, sorry. Didn't mean to.
The
make
Flash.
A mistake.
He tries to save someone, and there's a tidal wave coming, but because of the fact that he saved them, he wasn't able to prevent the tidal wave. So he tried to prevent it by running as fast as he could along the beach, but wasn't able to stop it, and he ended up going back in time. Like he had not done that before.
That's a mistake.
Well, it's a similar.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, you don't, because Barry's gotten in trouble too many times for doing that. But no, that's the thing though. Like it's the idea that people can unlock potential in themselves that they didn't have before under extreme circumstances where it's
I'm not saying they haven't done it before. I'm just saying from a storytelling standpoint, I just I don't know. I felt bad for you because I know you thought it was a good movie, and I'm tired of disagreeing with you.
No. Here's the thing. When it comes to movies, I'm more than willing to disagree with people saying, like someone saying, no, that wasn't a good movie. I'm more than willing to disagree with it. I would rather you enjoy it, like you yourself enjoy it, instead of me going, oh yeah, it's a really good movie, and then you taking my word for it and then just enjoying it because I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I would rather you enjoy it for yourself.
Right, exactly. I just, I don't know. It just, again, my theory in here, just DC is so missing the mark.
Oh, I agree.
Compared to what else is out there. It's just getting bad, and I don't think Wonder Woman helps their case.
Well, hopefully,
I really don't.
Hopefully, from now on, the mark will be hit because I very much trust in since Zack Snyder and his wife have now stepped down from being basically the creative duo of the DC movies from now on, and they've created a brain trust of 4 different people. One, I really like. I enjoy all of his stuff. Joss Whedon is an amazing director. I've always liked his stuff. Jeff Johns, who is like the main guy in all of DC Comics.
We will see. Let's just say, like they've got more movies coming with new directors. That's what you're telling me. They have more movies coming with different directors.
Well, they're using a brain trust instead of like saying this person gets this. Like one person's over it all. It's a brain trust of like 5 different people.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be at least one guy who's got to be in charge so they can take the fall when the movies are bad again.
Each movie's going to have its own director, but the overall creative.
So, I get
thing to it is going to be
as of 5 o'clock Eastern time. I wanted to make sure you guys hear this. Hurricane Irma has intensified into an extremely dangerous Category 5 hurricane. That's according to the National Hurricane Center. They're citing data from the latest NOAA and Air Force Hurricane Hunter aircraft. Okay, so that's NOAA and Air Force Hurricane aircraft. So it is up to a Category 5 already. It's a beast. I'm buying into the media hype on this. I just want to let you know, contact your family if you've got any in the Florida area, especially down close to the Miami, Fort Lauderdale, that sort of thing. All right. Also, here coming up as soon as I get off here in 10 minutes, I'm going to be heading on over to the Northeast Arkansas Tea Party. I'm going to be speaking there. Excited. I understand former State Representative Donnie Copeland will be there as well. And just going to be going over a lot of what we've been going over here. But it's always great to meet with grassroots activists. That's going to be on Caraway Road in Jonesboro. Barn Hills Buffet is where I will be. We're going to take a break. The phone number to call me, text me, let me know what's going on, 870-275-9799. Back in a moment.
In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst, how are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal. Ethics. Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, we've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody. If you would like information about advertising or supporting the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media Group, call 870-275-9755. Join the fight against big government and advance the preservation of liberty by calling 870-275-9755. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Here's an article from, real quick, we did talk about DACA last hour and what everything that's going on with that. Townhall.com, though, has a great piece on Senator Tom Cotton over at Town Hall. Matt Vespa, Republican senator on DACA fallout. President Obama created this unconstitutional mess. I want to remind you that's what you need to be focused on here. Let's listen to this. The Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program that originated under Obama is winding down. Liberals are freaking out, and Congress now has to deal with this as they return from August recess. The executive action has been controversial, with many making the argument that it's unconstitutional overreach from the White House on immigration policy. In fact, the Trump administration's lawyers felt it was indefensible in its current form, while the Department of Homeland Security was adamant that an act from Congress was needed to keep DACA as it stands today. Senator Tom Cotton, along with Senator David Perdue, proposed the RAISE Act, which was one of the most extensive overhauls in our green card policy, placing an emphasis on language and skill requirements. It's aimed to protect American workers. Now, with the fate of the so-called Dreamers in Congress's court, there could be a window to pass the RAISE Act, along with legalizing the 800,000 DACA recipients who are vulnerable to deportation. Cotton is certainly in favor of this, though reminded everyone on Hugh Hewitt today that DACA is one giant constitutional mess that was created by Obama and left in the lap of the Trump White House. Tom Cotton, this is what he said. We did a little bit of this, but I'll give you just the highlights here. Hugh, those points are almost undisputable. President Obama created this mess, and it's landed in President Trump's lap and our lap in the Congress. The reason we know it's unlawful is President Obama himself said it was unlawful in 2010 and 2011 when he was asked to take these steps and did not. But he did so in 2012 in the middle of his reelection. I don't know if any capable and forthright lawyer who argues that the administration can defend this proposition in court. They certainly have weaker ground to stand on than President Obama did when he refused to defend the Defense of Marriage Act a few years ago in court. So it's just not, this is all a mess of President Obama's making, he said. Back to Town Hall. When asked about the prospects of Congress acting on legislation to reform immigration, Cotton was optimistic, while also saying he's not just for blanket amnesty for the Dreamers. Hugh, I'm pretty optimistic. You know, the Democrats have said for years they want to give legal status to these people. The president says he wants to, but he also knows that we have to control the consequences of that. And there's a very, like I said, logical, coherent, straightforward, relatively small package that can be negotiated here. That's what I'm going to work on. I'm not going to support just a blanket amnesty with nothing to control the consequences of it, or some kind of rebate gang of 8 legislation. I'll be an opponent of that. Now, that's kind of a direct response to Rubio. When Senator Cotton came out with the RAISE Act, Rubio came out and said that he opposed it, but it was also kind of like the Gang of 8 bill. And look, they are just, him and Paul Ryan, meaning Rubio and Paul Ryan in that ilk, they are absolutely opposed to the idea of shrinking the amount of immigrants that come here every year. And we've ebbed and flowed with that. Sometimes a bunch of immigrants, a large number coming in. Sometimes we make that smaller, and we need this. I mean, I'm telling you, what Tom Cotton is onto here is it makes a perfect amount of sense. I'm glad he signed up for this RAISE Act. I'm glad he's working on this piece of bill. You know what he said? He said to one media outlet, I think it was Roby Brock. He said basically that this legislation is for the kind of person that takes a shower after they go to work. He said if you're the kind of person that maybe takes a shower before you go to work, this is really not about you. This is about the person that takes a shower, wages, the blue collar after they go to work. I thought it was pretty powerful stuff. Folks, I want to remind you that this program is available for your viewing pleasure anytime you want over at paulharrell.com. Video archives, podcasts. If you are an iOS user, I want you to go to your iTunes store, the iTunes store, not the App Store, the iTunes store, and I would like for you to subscribe to the Paul Harrell Program podcast. If you don't have an iOS, that's fine. You got Android or anything else? Go to SoundCloud. Get the SoundCloud app. We are the PHP podcast, and you can check us out there. Subscribe to that as well. And that's a lot of people want to listen to the show when they can't listen to it live. We're live every day from 4 to 6 every weekday. So you go to the website, you can do all that. You can listen on the website if you don't want to subscribe, which I don't know why you wouldn't, or you can watch us online, video archives, and also look for our YouTube channel, because that's really where we have the smaller clips that you can share with others. We put those on our Facebook and everything else. So that's all the time we have for today, and I will see you guys tomorrow, 4 o'clock. Until then, I'm going to head to the Northeast Arkansas Tea Party. Arkansas, be safe.